What lies beneath the most sacred mountain in human history? The answer will shake you to your core. A drone just passed over Mount Sinai, equipped with radar technology 100 times more powerful than anything previously used. When scientists analyzed the data, they froze. Buried deep under thousands of years of rock and sand, the scans detected something impossible: geometric patterns, hidden chambers, and perfectly straight lines that nature simply cannot create. This isn't speculation. This is hard evidence. For over 3 millennia, the true location of Mount Sinai has remained one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Scholars have argued, explorers have searched, and governments have restricted access to suspected sites. But now, technology has revealed what human eyes could never see: structures beneath the mountain that may finally prove where Moses stood when he received the 10 Commandments. If this story captivates you, hit that like button and subscribe, because what we're about to uncover gets even more shocking. The mountain in question isn't where most people think. It's not the traditional site in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Instead, the drone scans point to a forbidden peak in northwestern Saudi Arabia, a mountain so controversial that the Saudi government has blocked access for decades, preventing high-quality documentation from reaching the outside world. When the drone completed its pass, researchers didn't just capture surface images. The ground-penetrating radar pierced through solid rock, exposing architectural signatures hidden below: linear formations, buried structural elements, and organized patterns that are unmistakably artificial. This is the first concrete data powerful enough to challenge centuries of religious tradition and academic debate. The implications are staggering. If these scans are confirmed, the entire Exodus narrative may need to be rewritten. What the technology revealed: when the drone surveyed the mountain, it captured more than surface imagery. The radar penetrated deep into the rock, exposing shapes and structures hidden below: linear formations, buried architectural elements, and organized patterns distinctly artificial in nature. For the first time, concrete data emerged that could challenge centuries of scholarly debate. The scans pointed towards specific coordinates in Saudi Arabia's far northwestern region, near the peaks of Jabal Makla and Jabal al-Lawz. This discovery reignited discussions that had long been constrained by the area's remoteness, governmental access restrictions, and academic controversy. Those who advocate for Jabal al-Lawz begin with scriptural evidence. The Apostle Paul's letter to the Galatians explicitly states that Mount Sinai lies in Arabia. Proponents argue this wasn't metaphorical language, but a straightforward geographic reference, placing the mountain outside Egyptian borders, across water, in lands historically known as Arabia. The narrative supports this view. After fleeing Egypt, Moses settled in Midian, east of the Gulf of Aqaba, where he witnessed the burning bush. If Moses already knew this mountain of God in that region, it follows logically that after the Israelites departed Egypt and crossed the sea, they would journey toward that familiar, sacred place. Physical characteristics strengthen the argument. Jabal al-Lawz's summit displays unusually darkened rocks, appearing scorched, contrasting sharply with the surrounding granite peaks. Supporters link this to Exodus 19's description of the mountain trembling, smoking, and burning when the divine presence descended. Near the mountain's base sits a massive boulder, split cleanly down the middle, with a smooth channel carved between its halves. The surrounding terrain shows evidence of significant ancient water flow, despite being among the region's driest areas today. Believers connect this to the rock Moses struck in Exodus 17. A vast, open plain spreads before the mountain, spacious enough for an enormous encampment. Long stone lines appear to mark prohibited boundaries, matching Exodus warnings that people must not touch the mountain under penalty of death. Additional features include what appears to be a man-made stone platform, which some identify as the altar Moses constructed during the covenant ceremony. Nearby stands another structure that some associate with the golden calf incident, with ancient cow and bull depictions carved into surrounding rocks. A solitary tall stone pillar rises near the site, claimed by some to be one of 12 pillars Moses erected representing Israel's tribes. Together, these elements create a picture that many find too aligned with biblical descriptions to dismiss as coincidence. Professional archaeologists and historians contest these claims on technical grounds. During Paul's lifetime, the Roman Empire governed a province called Arabia Petraea, which encompassed the Sinai Peninsula. Therefore, Paul's reference to Sinai being in Arabia used contemporary political geography rather than indicating the Arabian Peninsula proper. Historical linguistics adds another layer. As early as 2000 BCE, Egyptian documents mention a region in southern Sinai called Thihat or Safat, which linguists recognize as an early form of the name Sinai. This connects the term to the Egyptian peninsula centuries before Moses' era. A critical objection centers on the absence of late Bronze Age artifacts. No pottery, tools, inscriptions, or settlement remains from the Exodus period have been found. The features cited by proponents could belong to entirely different cultures from later historical periods. Scientists note that dark summit rocks occur naturally, split boulders form through natural desert weathering, stone alignments could mark animal pens or territorial boundaries, and the proposed altars show no evidence of ancient ritual use. When technology changes everything for years, the debate remained essentially deadlocked until technology shifted the balance. In 2012, LiDAR scans in Angkor, Cambodia stunned the archaeological world by revealing an entire hidden urban grid beneath dense jungle canopy. Now imagine radar technology 100 times more powerful than earlier models, mounted on drones and deployed across remote Arabian mountains, rarely accessible to researchers. This became reality in 2025, launching the search for Mount Sinai into a new phase. The drone finally provided data indicating a specific mountain whose underground patterns match the scans. But this discovery raises new questions. Why this particular mountain? And who first identified this hidden site long before proof emerged? A crucial detail often overlooked. In Exodus, the ground at the burning bush was already holy before Moses arrived. When Moses approached the mysterious flame, the voice didn't promise the land would become holy. It declared, "Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." This language indicates that Horeb, the mountain of God, held sacred significance long before Moses encountered it. Many scholars therefore believe Moses didn't discover an unknown mountain, but entered a pre-existing sacred site. After fleeing Egypt, Moses settled in Midian, married into the priestly family of Jethro, also called Reuel, and lived among people who understood their landscape with deep spiritual awareness. As a shepherd under Jethro, Moses wasn't wandering aimlessly. He moved through land shaped by Midianite beliefs where holy places were recognized and honored. Reaching Horeb, he stepped into sacred space, revered for generations. This concept, that Moses encountered a mountain already viewed as divine, gains support from later Christian history in the region, particularly with St. Catherine's Monastery's establishment in the 4th and 6th centuries. The monastery now stands as one of the strongest symbols linked to Moses' story, but its origins reveal how later generations shaped the mountain's memory. During Emperor Constantine the Great's reign, Christian attitudes toward holy places transformed dramatically. Before his rule, Christians didn't travel to sacred locations as they do today. Their faith centered on spiritual truths, emphasizing that God existed everywhere and that the true Jerusalem was heavenly rather than earthly. Constantine's conversion changed everything. Suddenly, the Roman Empire began identifying and protecting physical sites connected to biblical events. His mother, Empress Helena, played a pivotal role in this new movement. Around 326 CE, she traveled across Palestine and neighboring regions, seeking places tied to Jesus' life and other key biblical moments. During this era of growing pilgrimage culture, monks gathered in the remote desert below Jabal Musa, the Egyptian mountain long associated with biblical Mount Sinai. A simple motivation drew these early monks. They wanted to pray near where Moses encountered God, in the burning bush. Their devotion gradually evolved into what would become St. Catherine's Monastery. By the 4th century, a small monastic community had settled beneath the mountain, constructing shelters and welcoming travelers. They believed the valley below Jabal Musa contained the bush that burned without being consumed. Whether this tradition stemmed from earlier local memory or developed during the new Christian pilgrimage wave remains uncertain. But by the time the story reached Constantinople, the belief was firmly established. 2 centuries later, in the 6th century, Emperor Justinian solidified the monastery's importance. He ordered construction of a fortified complex around what monks claimed was the original burning bush. The structure was remarkable for its time. Thick granite walls, towers, storage areas, and a central church. Its purpose was both spiritual and protective, to safeguard the monks and preserve the traditions that had taken root there. Within these walls, monks tended what they believed to be the very bush Moses saw. Now known as the burning bush of Sinai, it remains a living plant tended daily for nearly 15 centuries. Monks have maintained it as a symbol of divine presence. Pilgrims often touch its branches or kneel beside it, imagining the moment Moses first heard his calling. The monastery also became a repository of Christian heritage. Its library, among the world's oldest, second only to the Vatican, houses ancient Bibles, early Christian writings, and rare translations preserved only because the monks protected them. For generations, St. Catherine served not only as a spiritual center, but as a knowledge hub visited by scholars, travelers, and church leaders. Another landmark within the monastery is the Well of Moses, believed to be where Moses first helped Zipporah and her sisters draw water. Pilgrims approach it with deep reverence, picturing the moment Moses transformed from Egyptian prince to humble shepherd. Yet a question persists. If Horeb's holiness had such deep roots, why is physical evidence from Moses' time so scarce? The archaeological puzzle. Archaeologists note that the Israelites at Sinai weren't kingdom builders, city dwellers, settlers, or farmers. They were travelers, shepherd families living in tents, moving from place to place. According to the Bible, they camped at the mountain for approximately 1 year, a period so brief that in archaeological terms it leaves virtually nothing behind. Cities leave walls, workshops, temples, and burial grounds. Nomadic camps leave only faint traces. Experts identify 4 types of remains such a group might leave, each naturally disappearing over millennia. First, hearthstones and ash. Daily cooking fires require small stone circles, but wind scatters the ash, rain disperses the stones, and animals trample the ground. After thousands of years, these fires leave almost no trace, often only slight soil discoloration. In deserts, ash disappears within seasons. After 3,500 years, the absence of fire remains is entirely expected. Second, post holes and lightstone lines. Tent poles leave small round holes detectable only through extremely careful soil analysis. Stone lines that guided animals or marked small enclosures are even harder to identify. Later, shepherds, traders, and nomads disturb or reuse the stones, erasing original patterns. Third, pottery fragments. Pottery typically provides the strongest archaeological evidence, but nomads carried very little. Just simple bowls, small jars, and cooking vessels. When these broke, pieces scattered across wide desert areas. Over millennia, the fragments mixed with pottery from countless later travelers, making them impossible to assign to one specific group. Fourth, buried waste and latrine pits. Organic material decays completely in open environments. Any human waste from the Israelites would have been destroyed long ago by bacteria, insects, and time. Even if hundreds of hearths, thousands of pottery fragments, and numerous tent marks once existed, they would have been spread across a vast plain. Over centuries, the same area was visited by Bedouin herders, traders, soldiers, pilgrims, and other nomads, all leaving similar traces. Today, archaeologists find a mixture of remains from many eras, making the faint evidence of a single one-year camp nearly impossible to isolate. The missing evidence is therefore exactly what experts expect from a mobile population that stayed briefly. The problem isn't that the Israelites left nothing, it's that their traces look identical to those of many other groups. Simply put, the evidence hides not because it never existed, but because it blends into everything else. The Egyptian silence. A second issue concerns the Egyptians, who many expect would have recorded the Exodus. Since Egypt documented victories, kings, and wars, it seems logical they would record the loss of slaves, national humiliation, and military disaster. Egyptologists explain why this assumption is mistaken. Egyptian writing served royal propaganda, not objective history. Monuments displayed the pharaoh's power, not weaknesses. Events showing failure were deliberately omitted. Egypt followed a consistent pattern of erasure. Major negative events left no contemporary record. The Hyksos expulsion, one of Egypt's most significant political upheavals, produced no inscriptions from the time and is known only from later accounts. The case of Akhenaten is even clearer. After his death, later rulers erased his name, smashed his statues, and rewrote history to eliminate him completely. If Egyptians erased their own kings, they would certainly erase any event portraying a foreign god defeating them. If the Exodus occurred as described, Egypt would have faced plagues, failed magicians, the death of the firstborn, including the royal heir, mass panic, slave escape, and destruction of the chariot force in water. No Egyptian scribe would ever record such events. The silence in Egyptian records is therefore unsurprising. It's precisely what historians expect. Together, these two factors create a predictable pattern. The Israelites left traces too light to stand out, and the Egyptians erased anything threatening royal prestige. The absence of evidence doesn't disprove the Exodus. It aligns with what would naturally happen. The desert is silent, but not empty. With careful study and modern tools, faint traces can sometimes be detected. Though the Israelites faded from view, their presence left subtle marks beneath thousands of years of sand. This isn't the first time a people of Israel disappeared. Centuries later, the 10 northern tribes vanished under similar conditions. History records many disappearances, but few are as striking as the loss of an entire community. One of the clearest examples occurred in 722 BCE, when the Assyrian Empire invaded the northern kingdom of Israel, leading to the sudden disappearance of the 10 tribes. A mystery lasting over 2,000 years. The Assyrian conquest under Shalmaneser V and Sargon II was deliberate and systematic. Their imperial policy was to uproot populations, scatter them across distant provinces, and erase their identity. Archaeology confirms the violence of this campaign. Excavations at sites like Giza show smashed walls, burned public buildings, layers of ash, and arrowheads left where soldiers fell over 2,700 years ago. The Northern Kingdom didn't decline slowly, it collapsed under force. The Bible states that almost the entire northern population was removed, leaving only Judah in the south. This produced the legend of the 10 lost tribes. Modern research, however, shows the reality was more complex. While many were deported, thousands of Israelites remained in the land. They continued farming, rebuilt small settlements, and later formed part of the group known as Samaritans, who preserved fragments of Israelite tradition. Meanwhile, others vanished into the Assyrian world. Some were absorbed into new regions, where families were separated, languages blended, and customs slowly dissolved. These people didn't die out. They simply stopped appearing in records as a distinct nation. Their disappearance through assimilation, survival without identity, is the heart of the mystery. The Assyrian exile parallels the Exodus. In the first case, the Israelites left Egypt and disappeared into the desert, leaving almost no physical evidence. In the second, they were removed from their homeland and dissolved into a foreign empire, leaving almost no cultural trace. One disappearance is geographic, the other demographic. Together, they show how an entire population can fade without leaving ruins behind. Desert trade routes. Over time, traditions suggested the tribes didn't remain in Assyria. Some may have moved eastward along desert trade routes linking Mesopotamia and Arabia. These routes, including the incense and silk roads, were marked by caravans and fortified inns spaced roughly 30 to 40 kilometers apart, offering shelter, water, and markets along otherwise harsh desert corridors. If small groups of exiles traveled through these areas, their remains would blend with countless traces of traders, nomads, and pilgrims who used the same paths. This possibility connects both disappearances to the same landscapes. The same deserts that hid the movement from Egypt could also hide the dispersion from Israel. In such environments, faint evidence can survive only in the smallest forms. Modern archaeology uses tools like ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging, and multispectral scanning to detect buried fire pits, stone circles for tents, and small refuse layers left by temporary populations. Can an entire community vanish without leaving visible ruins? The Assyrian exile shows that it can, and if the silence surrounding the lost tribes is understandable, then the silence around the Exodus becomes easier to interpret. Archaeologists working in northwestern Arabia have uncovered settlement traces shedding light on the Midianites, the people among whom Moses lived before the Exodus. The Midianites were a semi-nomadic population, active from the late Bronze Age into the early Iron Age. Their presence is marked not by large cities, but by small encampments, mining outposts, and tradeway stations. Excavations reveal structures built on simple stone foundations, often only a few meters wide, along with enclosures used for livestock. Most sites cover just a few hectares, reflecting a lifestyle based on mobility rather than permanent settlement. A major line of evidence comes from Midianite painted pottery. Identified by its red-on-buff colors and geometric designs, this ware has been found at numerous locations in the region. Shards scattered across former habitation areas serve as dependable chronological markers. Radiocarbon dating of associated hearths and organic remains places many sites between the 15th and 13th centuries BCE, a period aligning with traditional timelines for the Exodus. The pottery is utilitarian, yet shows consistent local craftsmanship, indicating a ceramic tradition adapted to mobile living. Industrial activity appears alongside domestic remains. Excavations have uncovered smelting debris, including slag and furnace fragments, confirming the extraction and processing of copper and other metals. Historical sources describe metalworking as characteristic of this region, and archaeological evidence supports that record. Stone structures provide additional insight. Rectangular foundations, low walls, and small enclosures dot the terrain. In several valleys, circular or oval stone arrangements appear to be tent bases or temporary shelters. Their sparse distribution reflects a social structure built around family groups and small trading parties rather than centralized authority. Water management features further clarify settlement patterns. Archaeologists have identified channels, cisterns, and stone-lined depressions designed to collect seasonal rainfall. These installations demonstrate careful adaptation to the arid environment. The biblical itinerary of the Exodus lists locations such as Elim, Rephidim, and Taberah. Archaeologists note these were likely seasonal encampments rather than permanent towns, consistent with the Midianite settlement model. Sites corresponding geographically to these locations contain minimal architecture, scattered pottery, and hearth remains, suggesting movement guided by water, grazing, and established trade routes. The name and the fire. The mountain's name offers the earliest clue to its significance long before the Israelites arrived. Some scholars trace the name to Sin, the Mesopotamian moon god worshipped across Mesopotamia, and by early Semitic groups, suggesting the mountain may have served as a lunar cult site centuries before the biblical narrative. Another explanation links the name to the Hebrew word Sinai, thorn bush, recalling the burning bush in Exodus. According to this view, local vegetation, especially acacia and other thorny shrubs that burn easily, may have inspired associations with fire. A third interpretation situates the mountain within the wilderness of Sin, a name possibly referring to clay or mud, reflecting the environmental character of the surrounding desert. Though the meanings differ, each interpretation points to long-standing pre-Israelite reverence for the mountain and its use in ritual or symbolic practices. The biblical narrative emphasizes the unique nature of the tablets given to Moses. Exodus describes them as inscribed by the finger of God, distinguishing them from human-made inscriptions. The first set was broken when Moses confronted the Israelites worshipping the golden calf, an act violating the covenant. Physical traces connected to this narrative appear at the mountain's base. Archaeological surveys have identified stone platforms, enclosures, and foundations that may have served as altars or ritual spaces corresponding to biblical descriptions of covenant ceremonies and sacrificial practices. Hearths, stone-lined pits, and concentrations of small stone arrangements indicate temporary cooking areas and livestock pens. Simple pottery fragments confirm human presence, while scattered animal bones suggest ritual or domestic activity. Though modest, these remains match the expected footprint of a mobile community performing religious rites in a desert setting. The burning bush episode may reflect both symbolic meaning and natural processes. Thorny shrubs, such as acacia, contain oils that ignite easily, and desert conditions occasionally produce fires triggered by lightning or spontaneous combustion. Such burning could have appeared extraordinary to ancient observers. The mountain's broader significance is reinforced by its geography. Its prominent peaks, striking coloration, and position along travel routes would have made it a recognizable landmark. Sacred mountains throughout the ancient Near East often served as gathering places for rituals, oaths, and celestial observations. The mountain's sacred status continued long after the biblical period. Later traditions connected the site with prophetic activity, pilgrimage, and eventually monastic life. Monasteries established from the 4th to 6th centuries CE demonstrate sustained reverence for the location. This continuous religious use across millennia suggests that the mountain's sanctity preceded the Israelite arrival and that its ritual importance was maintained through persistent cultural memory tied to its distinctive landscape. The combination of advanced technology, archaeological evidence, and historical analysis continues to shed new light on one of humanity's most enduring mysteries.